Alright, Tribe Mob, so as you guys know, we had a vote on what was going to be the next Loyalist chapter that you guys were most excited to have, and it was the Imperial Fist that won that, and I guess Joy Toy must have heard you guys, because here we have it, the introduction of the Imperial Fists into the Joy Toy lexicon, and this is such a cool looking figure, man. These are going to be some of the best ones you're going to have on your shelf next to the rest of your Joy Toy army, and on top of that, from Hiya Toys, we're also getting probably the figures that are going to sell me on actually buying into the Judge Dredd wave. But that and more, and while you guys are at it, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe at the end once you guys have seen all the content. All right, let's go ahead and break it down. Alright, so to start everything off, we are getting the Imperial Fist from Joy Toy, and here's a promotional image that we are seeing here. Very beautiful. It's all four of the figures together. These are going to be bought separately, and they're actually doing things a little bit differently here. I guess I can kind of appreciate it, but at the same time, I'm curious as to why they're going this route. But I'm also considering the fact that these Space Wolves that we got were also just one set and nothing else. So I imagine maybe they're only doing one set of everything, and in the future we'll be getting more. So to start off, we have the Imperial Fist Intercessor's brother, Sergeant Sevido, and man, this is just something that really holds dear to my heart. Whenever you have a regular Space Marine that has some kind of lightning claw, or like in this case a power fist, man, it just completely elevates the entire figure as a whole. This is a good looking figure. I love the yellow. I love the way we have the fist, the pistol, and there's a few other options that we're going to take a look at. Now, along with that power fist, you're also going to be getting a chain sword, which is awesome, and of course a bolt pistol. I'm not sure which version that is, and it also looks like he's getting obviously a helmeted head, and then the half unhelmeted head that you are seeing here. Though I will mention that because there's no articulation in that power fist, basically he's going to be a one-handed holder of weapons no matter what. So you won't be getting him in any two-handed poses, as is just not possible with this one. Though I am curious as to how much articulation we are going to get out of that arm, because it seems to be a little static. I don't know if you can twist it forward so you can have his punch, you know, more vertical than it is horizontal, but we'll see once we get actual videos of these guys. Now, of course, the fist for this guy is going to be the highlight. It's what makes him different. It's what makes him really cool to me, at least. I really appreciate that they've decided to go in this direction. What would have been even more cool is if it would have been an opportunity to potentially remove that power fist for a regular arm. That would have made him a lot more modular, but it's okay. That would have costed more, and as you can tell, he comes stacked with stuff, the backpack. Though I am seeing two helmets. I don't know, and I don't understand why we're getting two helmets. That's something I don't think we've seen before. So that's pretty interesting. I'm curious as to what you guys think as to why we're getting two helmets, but they're also doing a few other things different in the sense that we're getting some of the sigils and the other stuff off the body, so they're not coming directly connected. You're gonna have to connect them afterwards, so that'll be interesting to see if Joy Toy can get the quality control down so that that doesn't come loose, because then you are gonna have to glue it in yourself anyway. I mean, unless that's what they want you to do. Alright, second off, we have the Imperial Fist Intercessor's Brother Marine 02. So this guy is more of a generic figure in terms of he's not a named character. They literally call him Brother Marine 02. So, I mean, I don't know if maybe that's just a nomenclature that they actually use, but as far as I can tell, he's just basically a generic figure. But I do like the fact that we do get the regular helmeted head here. We get that, I don't know if it's a radar on top. If any of you guys understand what that is, I've never quite understood when I see that what that is, but the rest of him, awesome, man. The pistols, the chain swords, some of the sigils that we have hanging off of him, really well done figure. Now this right here will be your more standard intercessor, as we will be getting a bolt assaulter rifle that will come with him, and of course an unhelmeted head. So gun, you will have plenty of options considering that this is more of your standard figure. You know, you'll get the two-handed poses, you'll be able to put weapons in both hands if you want to, so dual wielding shouldn't be an issue. So again, more of a standard figure. And then we have the same deal as before, basically assault rifle, chain sword, multiple hands. The sigil will actually come off of him, and again, you're going to have to put it on yourself. So that'll be interesting to see how they deal with that. And of course, just the rest of the kit. So really well done by Joy Toy. Now this third figure is so damn cool that they couldn't make it just a generic figure. They had to give him an actual name. So here we have the Imperial Fist Intercessors Primaris Lieutenant Naviaz. So again, this is going to be a dope looking figure, man. The shield, the power sword. You guys know that I am a sucker for anything that comes with a power sword. So this is definitely going to be a must buy for me. The shield does look nice. I do believe this is the first time we're seeing that specific kind of shield. This is going to be different from the Blade Guard Veteran that we've seen before. But again, this is the Imperial Fist's regular intercessor version of that. Now, what I really appreciate about this figure is the fact that he does embody a lot of what is the Imperial Fist. They're known for being this impenetrable defensive group, but they're also just as powerful as the rest of the chapters that exist. So again, power sword and shield, great combo. I like his overall design and some of the little cues that they've given him to try to differentiate him from some of the other guys that we're getting in this line. But again, I think that the power, if you're just like me, that power sword with this shield is going to sell you. Again, this is more of a mini light version of the Blade Guard Veteran, and most likely at a cheaper price, to be honest. So again, this guy will be coming with multiple weapons. We see a bolt pistol, obviously we have the power sword, and we have obviously the shield. So, you know, you'll be able to have a few options with him. No unhelmeted head on this one, which is kind of interesting. I see that that's becoming less of a normality. Now I'm wondering if maybe that's the reason why the other guy comes with another head, so you can add a red head if you wanted to this guy. And again, all the sigils don't come on the body. So again, I'm curious what they're going to do with that. Like, how are they going to make this work in a way that won't make the figure feel flimsy? I hope this doesn't affect quality control, but at least for the most part, again, these guys do come pretty stacked with a lot of stuff, and I do appreciate it. All right, now fourthly, last but not least, we do have the Imperial Fist Aggressor, Brother Sergeant Lysias. And I will say this, or it could be Lysias. I will say this is a very dope looking figure. Now, I do like the aggressors. We've seen them before. This isn't something that's brand new to us. We've seen the buck, and this guy seems to follow that buck to the T. The only real difference is that we do get obviously some different, looks like some different sigils, and of course the pauldrons that are going to reflect the Imperial Fist chapter instead of the, I guess, the Ultramarines chapter, which is what we've gotten before. But again, that's not a bad thing. This is a really premium looking buck. Now again, this guy does look exactly like the other guys we've gotten before, though here we get a few of the highlighted differences, basically the jewel on his chest, and then of course it looks like that right pauldron is going to be a little bit different. So that's something that is pretty cool, but again, not a bad thing. It's a really pretty looking buck. I love the yellow of the Imperial Fist. This looks so much more different from the Ultramarines version of this, but it's basically, again, the exact same figure. So I like what a simple color difference can do for a figure, but of course this is something that, again, was already a really pretty buck. The only thing that I don't like about it is that those hands come static. You're not going to be able to put anything to it. You're not going to be able to really articulate it to do anything. I am hoping that in the future they do change that up. I highly doubt that they necessarily will, but we'll see. So as you guys can tell, he is just one solid buck. He doesn't come with anything extra. He doesn't come with anything that comes off of him, including not a secondary head. So that is interesting that we're not getting a secondary head, an unhelmeted head, because I'm pretty sure the other aggressors came with that. But maybe that just means this guy might be just the slightest bit cheaper. Now here we do get a photo where they're all together in their action poses, and again, this is a really good looking squad overall. Now this is obviously going to be one from every single kind of squad that we would have gotten separate from this. So if they have two different kinds of intercessors, I'm sure that we have those options here. As the guy with the blade and shield, I imagine might be a part of a different squad altogether. But again, I do like what we have going on here, and again, seeing that there's 4 different ones here, it makes me believe that we're going to get more squads in the future. And then of course we do get this back shot of them, which, you know, Joy Toy doesn't skimp on any kind of detail. So the same amount you see on the front is the same amount you're going to see in the back with all those reds, the grays. You know, they didn't necessarily have to do that, but they do anyway, and that's why I think a lot of us continue to buy them despite some quality control issues. And then here we get one last shot of the front, this time with their other toolkits. And as you can tell, fairly similar, couple of differences, but I feel you can get a better shot of how tall that aggressor is. He's a big boy, so I don't know. I really enjoy looking at how good these photos look. If I only had to pick one from this squad, it would be a hard toss-up, man, because those two in the center with the Power Fist and the swords, man, that would be a tough one. So either one of those two would be my number one pick. The rest of them would come after. But of course, let me know which one you guys would pick up if you could only pick one. Alright, Trial Mob, now switching over to Hiya Toys. They are coming out with some fire from the Judge Dredd line, and we're getting the Clegg Mercenaries. So this guy is not a unique figure. He is basically one of many. So this is something that you can army build, an army builder. And man, I gotta admit, he does look pretty cool. A freaking crocodile in a spacesuit. And like, man, Judge Dredd is a wild comic, man. I've read a few, and there's definitely some dark stuff here, but it is a pretty cool looking figure overall. And I think this is one of the things that kind of won me over to want to potentially buy into this. And then, of course, what would this figure be without a gun? So as you can tell, he does come with a rifle. But I am taking a look at the overall articulation of this guy, and I'm not sure how these guys are supposed to look, let's say, in the comic. I'm going to have to look it up and see. But it doesn't look like he can really hold... Just by looking at the articulation, it doesn't really look like he'll be able to hold that rifle with both hands. So I don't know. It's little things like that that do bother me. Hiya Toys is a 1/18th scale figure set. They are a little bit bigger from, like, let's say Acid Rain or Joy Toy, not by much, just the slightest bit. But articulation isn't really their strong point. But these prices are way lower than Joy Toy, extremely way lower than Acid Rain. So you got to expect that there's going to be a few shortcomings when it comes to that. But in terms of at least overall sculpt and look, this is a really cool looking figure. I would be willing to pick this one up. Hopefully they do fix that. And next up from Hiya Toys, we have Judge Anderson. Now, here's the deal. This is the one that really sold me. As soon as I saw this figure and I saw how pretty the sculpt was, how pretty the face was, just the overall aesthetic of this one, I was immediately sold. I've been trying to stay away from this line, but between the Clegg Warrior and then, of course, the Mercenary, and then Judge Anderson right here, this is just too good. Now, as I mentioned before, articulation is limited, and if you look at some of the other photos that have been solicited, these guys get about 90 degrees. All the judges get about 90 degrees in both their top and bottom limbs, and they can cross over the chest just the slightest bit. So there's definitely going to be a little bit of articulation hindrances, but once you get, a couple of judges all together, holding their pistols, their batons, I mean, it's going to be a pretty look overall. So even if you don't get the full amount of articulation that you might want to get out of these figures, I still think that for the $20 price tag for what you're getting, I still think they're really nice. And there's still always a chance we'll get that motorcycle that they come with. And of course, I mean, right now we have 3 judges in total. So with this Judge Anderson, and if you guys don't remember who Judge Anderson is, just in case if you're wondering, okay, who is this, let me go Google it. If you watch the Judge Dredd movie from 2015, 2016, the female that is with Judge Dredd that has basically the psychic abilities, this is her in actual accurate comic form. So again, this is something that definitely sold me. If I only get one figure ever from this Hiya Toys Judge Dredd IP, it's gonna be this one. This is without a doubt my favorite looking one. Maybe once I have them in hand, I might feel different, but for right now, I think this is the one that's won me over. Now, we did get a comparison size, and as you can see here, the Clegg Warrior is ginormous. Those photos, just by looking at the photos from before, it's hard to tell that they would be that big, but yeah, it's a big boy. And the other judges, I imagine, are going to be more or less the height of Judge Anderson. They might be just the slightest bit taller because they're male figures, but as you can tell, this is definitely a fairly large figure in comparison to some of the Acid Rain and Joy Toy stuff. So if I'm able to find a photo, since again, I don't own any of this, I'll try to post one later in one of the community posts so you guys can see more or less the size difference between this stuff and Joy Toy. But again, just very colorful, very, very charismatic looking figures overall. Definitely, this is what sold me on the line, and I hope that articulation isn't going to be as bad as I'm thinking that it's going to be. But hey, we'll see once we get them in hand. There's only so much you can do at a $20 price point. And now switching over to 52 Toys. Now 52 Toys has brought some stuff before, I have covered them, but they're coming out with a new IP from Capcom's Dynasty Warriors, or I guess Dynasty Wars. I don't know why I said Warriors. But this is something that is based on exactly that, the Dynasty Warriors series. I guess this was a game that's on the side that came out back in the day. I'm not a big fan of this older style. I really wish if they were going to do something like Dynasty Warriors that we were going to get more of their modern stuff, but I'll show you guys what I mean. So as you can see here, these are just prototypes, so we haven't gotten a fully filled in figure yet. Maybe I will warm up to them better once we see all the paint added to them. But yes, as you can tell, this is more of that cartoony early 90s, late 2000s look. I want to say probably more early 90s look. This reminds me a lot of Water Margin, but I would say that this is probably a little bit better than Water Margin. But because of the stylistic approach that they decided to go with, it's that old school style stuff, and it's just not my cup of tea, but it is something that you might like. Again, this is something that we don't really have much of. The only thing we have is Water Margin. They're not the easiest to get. This right here might be something we see as a wide release on BBTS, Locker Toys, everywhere else, so this might be a little easier to pick up. Now again, here we have another figure, and I think it's maybe more so noticeable on this guy, how this is more based on like a 2D look rather than the newer 3D looking stuff. Just the proportions, the size, the way things look, definitely a more old school approach, which is fine. I think there's plenty of people that are going to like that. It's just not my cup of tea. Holy hell, look at that bow and arrow in the middle of the guy that's holding it. That looks incredibly 2D cartoony, like early 1990s, mid 1990s. Again, it's not my thing. I think that people who played this game most likely are salivating right now because these do look good. It looks like the articulation is going to be pretty badass. The fact that you can get him in that pose right there with that bow and arrow, that's pretty cool. That's honestly something that would definitely interest me to potentially take a look at, but again, this is definitely something for a different audience than myself.